Audio part two. So we have audio on our timeline and we've found its visual waveform. Now what I would like to do is just talk quickly about how to create some markers. And this is done in two ways. One which is to be like visual, where you would say, right here is a beat because I can see it in my waveform. Or maybe just turn up my brightness. Maybe I scrub over it. Boom, boom, boom. So the sound actually happens, right? Boom, boom, right at the very beginning of that waveform, obviously. Even though the middle of that waveform is where the peak is, that's just the nature of that sound. So right here I'd like to lay a visual marker on this layer so that I can reference it for animation. So I need to make sure that my layer is selected, and then I'm going to use the asterisk key on your numeric pad. If you have a laptop like my MacBook Pro, you'll have to do Control and then the asterisk, not function but Control. I don't even think Shift works. Does Shift work? That does it up in the main timeline. So boom, asterisk, and I got a little tiny little mark right there on the layer itself at that point in time. Here's the next sounds. I could lay another marker. So these markers, boom, are handy because not only can I see them myself visually if my layer is not toggled open, but they also snap. If I hold down my Shift key, the playhead or any layers or any keyframes, anything that I can drag around in my timeline will snap to those markers because they have a major significance in how they work. So the other way to do it would be to do a audio preview like I showed you earlier, the Control period on your, or just period on your number pad. And then you would start hitting that asterisk key while you hear it. So you're using your own sense of rhythm sonically and the rhythm that you can relay through your finger to try to set up a pattern of these things. So I'll just try that right now. So Alright, so once I hit stop, you can see that now that thing is just filled up with little tiny markers. And they don't look to be totally uniform. That's because I'm a white guy. Actually, I have a really good sense of rhythm. I'm in a band. I play bass. That is rhythm. So anyways, I just laid it down according to what I heard. You might want to go back and just say, well, is that, yeah, that one's on. This one's on. That one, yeah, a little bit delayed. I need to move that one back. So you can just grab them and shift them. I don't know why there'd be a big gap there, though. Let's see. Boom. 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 What's going on? Let me listen to it again. Well, it's because it's got the double thing going. Alright. Good enough for now. I think I would trust those beats and those markers. Now, the cool thing is that if I were to animate, I have those things already in place and I'll be able to snap keyframes like I was saying earlier. So maybe I'm just going to try to go really simple at first. I could establish a relationship with something visual and just the rhythm. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to go delete all markers. I just did a right click on one of the markers. I got rid of all of them. And I'm just going to open that back up again, set a marker for these basic rhythms, because I'd like my own markers for the bass line that comes in. This is where I got to figure out. Yeah, boom. So I'll put another one here. There. This is when I wish I was really good with recording movies, because I would speed this part up so you didn't have to sit here and watch me do it. But hey, you're watching a pro. You're paying money for this. Okay, so that would be my first bass rhythm. Let me listen to it again. Yeah, I think I got it. So that's just round one. What you can't do is you can't like copy markers, unfortunately. So I can copy keyframes. So I'm just going to do that later. I'm just going to set up the animation first so that something cool happens with that first dose of rhythm. So our exercise is going to be about shape layers and orchestration of movement to sound. And this is just a perfect exercise at an introductory level to be thinking about rhythmic decisions and spatial movement, but also gives us a good introduction to shapes and shape layers. I'm done with the audio. I'm just going to close it down, maybe lock it so I can't mess with it by accident. And I'm going to go up to the tool for shape layers. There are going to be 5 shape layers that I can use: rectangles, rounded rectangles, ellipse, and polygons, and then stars. And I'm just going to stay pretty basic for now. I'm going to use my ellipse tool. I'm going to do some circles. And when you have this tool active, the control bar updates to give you fill, stroke, and then what the stroke weight would be. I do not want strokes, so I currently have stroke set to have a slash through it. And you would do that by clicking on the word itself, stroke, and then defining the options. I do not want a stroke. I'd like a solid color. I'd like a linear gradient or a radial gradient in my stroke. I don't want one, so I'm just going to hit no stroke. The fill itself, if you click on the word fill, gives you the same window. No fill, solid color, linear gradient, or radial gradient. You have blending modes for these things, which are pretty cool, and opacity. Then the color itself, you click on that swatch, and it opens up your color picker where you can find a color to work with. And let's see. This is about crab in a bucket. Is there a color palette that I would find helpful? You know what a cool website is. Let's show you a cool website. Tab, and let's do Cooler. Cooler.adobe.com. This is a sort of communal color space, which is really killer. I can play with my own different color rules. Start shifting them through the spectrum based on a monochromatic rule, a triad rule. Look at that, and that's so cool. They give you the RGB, they give you hex values for all the different colors, compound. Or we could explore, and we could search, and maybe I'll do like, I don't know, I'll search the word crab, see if something comes up. Maybe somebody somewhere. Look at that, crab claw. Cool color palette. I like it. I like it. I am going to, how could I do this easy? I could just say, let's take a screenshot of just that palette and then import that screenshot. to no. Is that today? No. Where's my screenshot? Right there? Yep. Bingo. Screenshot. So if I bring my screenshot onto my canvas, and then I go back to my shape tool and open up that color, I could just say, let's pick the color here. Or I could have recorded what the RGB values were or something. This is a nice little trick. So now I am ready to, I can turn you off for now, I'm ready to draw a circle. In the circle, if I were to start clicking and dragging, you'll see that there is my circle. If I hold down Shift, it'll keep it perfectly constrained to a nice uniform circle. If I want to relocate it while I'm still clicking and dragging, I could hold the space bar and allow me to put it somewhere specifically. So maybe I'm going to put it right here. Shape number 1. Okay, now what happened when I laid that shape down is that it appeared in my timeline as a new layer. This is a shape layer, which is more like a container for shapes. So if you look at this, it says shape layer 1, but then there is contents, and we flip that open, and there is ellipse number 1. Ellipse number 1, if I open that up, has the information about a path, the size of the path and where it lives, a stroke, which there is no stroke, but then it has fill information. So there's my color, there's opacity, my blending mode, and then I have transform properties, and this is all specific just to this one ellipse. Now I could take that ellipse and I could duplicate it, and I'm going to duplicate it by no, I'm not going to right click on it. I'm seeing if it's going to pop up. My keyboard shortcut would be Command D to make a duplicate, but edit, duplicate, Command D, so I'm saying Command D, and what I end up with is ellipse number 2. Ellipse number 2, if I open that up, and I open up my transform, there's my position values, X and Y. I could just change it to be like right here. Maybe I don't want it. Maybe I want, whoops, maybe I want to overlap the other one. And I want that color to be something from my other swatches, this brown value. And maybe I want a composite mode of like overlay or screen or something so that they start to mix with each other. And this kind of becomes an interesting design dynamic of these things, right? So if I thought about my rhythm, boom, 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 how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe I can get away with 4. I'll try 4 first. So I'm going to duplicate ellipse number 2. So that I have ellipse number 3, and I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to grab my transform, and I'm going to move it over so that it's relatively close to the same overlap. I'm going to use my fill to change it to the next color, and I'll duplicate that again, open that up, transform, move it over. Well, the next color is white. I don't like that, so I'll just use the final orange. Interesting. I don't really get a very good blend on that one. Maybe I'll do overlay for that one and multiply. No multiply. Overlay works for that one too. Okay, so what I'm looking at now is a selection, or a group rather, of 4 ellipses that exist in one layer. So here's my one layer, and like I said, it's a container basically, and it contains my 4 ellipses. The shape layer itself has transform properties. I can change the position of all of them together. I could change the scale of all of them together. Okay, I'll just hit undo and undo. Or I can rotate all of them together. You get the idea. So the fact that they are part of that container known as shape layer 1, they would behave as expected. They're grouped together. But inside there, in the contents, you have properties for all of them so that you could tweak them accordingly. And then all those properties do have a stopwatch next to them so that they can be keyframed over time, which is what I'd like to do next. So since I'm trying to figure out something to do with rhythm, I'm going to use opacity to introduce my circles according to the little markers that I put in. So I don't want a circle to be visible at the beginning, so I'm going to take opacity and I'm going to lower it. Don't worry about the other ones yet. I'm going to get to them after I just set up my first one. So if I knew that I wanted these circles to pop on at each marker, I'd need to have them either fade in over time, or I could just have them pop. And in order to pop, I have to use a certain keyframe known as a hold keyframe. So I'm going to set the keyframe initiation for opacity by clicking on the stopwatch, lays down a keyframe, and I'm going to right click on that keyframe and I'm going to tell it to be a hold keyframe. So toggle hold keyframe. This is found from the menu animation, toggle hold keyframe. So that's where that little shortcut is for this menu. Toggle hold keyframe. My keyframe ends up looking like half of a diamond on one side and then a square on the right, which means it's going to hold until told to be anything else. So I'm going to go to my first marker and I'm going to make my value 100. So now you can see that as I scrub through time, it's 0 and then just boom, becomes 100. And that is what a hold keyframe will do. So setup number 1. I am going to go to the next base, which is right here, and I'm going to do the same thing for the next ellipse, which I'm going to copy those keyframes by selecting them. I'm going to go to ellipse number 2 and paste. I need to see them. I need to push them back so that it turns visible on the beat. Boom, doom. Okay. You know what? Maybe I shouldn't copy and paste. I should just do this visually so far. So the next baseline. Right here is when I want ellipse number 3 to come in. So I'm going to go to ellipse number 3. Toggle opacity, lower it to 0, move that over. It doesn't really matter when it resides. Toggle hold keyframe and then up my opacity to 100. And it will boom, boom, boom. And then the last one. Right here, hopefully. We'll see, won't we? Opacity, 0. Move it earlier in time. Set a hold keyframe and then set it to 100. Why does it not matter where that keyframe exists? Because I just don't want that dot or that circle to be visible until I tell it to come onto screen with 100% opacity, so it doesn't really matter where that keyframe is. I don't have to time that first one of 0 anywhere. But let's have a look and see if I have anything interesting. It'd make more sense to have more circles going. Doom, ba 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 ba. Yeah, I like that idea. I like that idea, Greg. Boom. So there's a pause. Boom, boom. So 2 more. So what I can do now is go to ellipse number 4. Yep. And duplicate that. Open it up, open transform. I'm going to move its position over here. You know, maybe these guys, since they're closer. Nah, I'll figure this out here. We'll do this way. So maybe now I got to pick from a different color, don't I? The fill. We'll go back to the start over. Can you tell I'm winging it? And then, obviously, the keyframe needs to be moved to here. And then if I duplicate that one again, it's my 6th ellipse. I'll change my color to be the brown. And I'll move it over with my position to here. I'm going off screen, but I know that I can change all of that with my master layer transform. And then I need to go find where that last boom is, right here, and then move that hold keyframe of opacity to there. Do I get anything more interesting? Kind of, not totally on, but it's a good start. It's a good start, Greg. I'm going to close that up. And you start tidying this up so that I can focus on just my transform, which I will scale down, and I'll move this thing over. And watch it one more time. Yeah, I don't know. Boom, boom. It's almost like they should be separate from the first 3, but I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna stick with it. All right. So, boom, doom, boom, toom, ba ba, boom. Maybe it should just be 2, but I'm sticking with it, like I said. So here is the layer that I will change the name of by hitting return to. I'm gonna call it base circles. I would like this to repeat. So one easy way for me to make this repeat would be to duplicate that master layer by just selecting that base circles layer, and now I'll be able to move the whole layer itself down in time, and let's see, maybe by this point this one is going to have it out, so it goes away. Now what I need to do is find the waveform again, or when it starts again. Right here. Let's see if I just can get lucky and have it be the same rhythm. Nope. No, I'm not. I'm not going to get lucky. I would have to... Screw it. I'm going to delete it. I'd have to do it all by hand again. But I'm just going to leave those on because I got another idea going here. But you get the picture. The picture is about syncing up an event visually to something that's happening sonically. And now my thought, when I first heard that song for this exercise, was to have a square rolling across the screen as the bass line goes doom, boom, doom, 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 doom. So let me start that on the next movie.